All right, here's the 8-3 video. All the notes and stuff are going to be on there, so I'm going to use my pointer to try and guide us through. 8-3 was a pretty easy lesson. The hardest part is what we started the very first day. Okay. We had ax squared plus bx plus c, and a times c gave us our top number, and b gave us our bottom number. Okay. And for lack of better terms, our two numbers here, my smiley face and my star, had to have two qualities. First of all, they had to multiply to get my top number, my a times c. They had to multiply the top, and then when you added them together, they're supposed to get the bottom. Okay. So here comes a couple examples. We started with 12 and 7. Okay. Easiest thing to do. Okay. 12 divided by 1, 12 divided by 2, 12 divided by 3. Just start dividing by 1 and by 2 by 3. List your factors. 1 times 12 doesn't add to 7. 2 times 6 doesn't add to 7. 3 times 4. So those are the two numbers I'm working with. 20, 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 3 times a decimal, and if you have a decimal, don't even worry about it. 4 times 5, multiplied 20 adds to 9. Okay? So just start taking this top number and dividing by 1, 2, 3, 4. So 24 divided by 1, 24 divided by 2. Okay? 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8 gave me 11, 4 times 6. You don't necessarily need to keep going. Okay, once you find your two numbers, you can write them down. You're good to go. Okay, but 24 divided by 1 gets me 24. 24 divided by 2 gets me 12, so 2 times 12. 24 divided by 3 gets me 8, so 3 times 8. Just do it that way in your calculator. Start dividing by stuff until you get your two numbers you need. Okay, now here's a little bit different. We're going to throw in some negatives. Okay, 12 on top, negative 8 on bottom. Positive 12. The only way to get to a positive is positive times positive or negative times negative. If we're going to have a negative down here, we're going to be using some negatives. So this one we know we're going to have two negatives. 1 times 12 doesn't add or subtract 8. 2 times 6 gets me 12. And then same signs, add and keep. The negative 2 minus 6, negative 8. 21 and negative 22. I told my kids, always start with 1 times whatever. Sometimes it is. In this case, 1 times 21, or we know positive on top, negative on bottom, gets us negative negative. So negative 1, negative 21 gets us negative 22 and multiplies there. Okay. 1 times 15, 2 times something, 3 times 5. 3 times 5 gets me 15, and I'm going to subtract the 2 because this number up here being negative, I'm going to need one positive, one negative. It's the only way to get to negative. Positive, positive doesn't work. Negative, negative doesn't work. One of each. Okay. So I'm looking over here. I'm basically subtracting 1 minus 15 or 15 minus 1, 3 minus 5, 5 minus 3. Well, my 5 minus 3 gave me 2. And so I know positive 5 and negative 3 are my two numbers. This one here, negative on top, negative on bottom. So 18 minus 1, 9 minus 2. Well, 9 minus 2 gets me positive 7. So 2 minus 9 would get me negative 7. So positive 2, negative 9 are my answers. Okay, so here's what I told my kids. Based on what they give you here in this highlighted area, you can know both my numbers positive are both my numbers negative. If you have negative, positive, my big number is going to be positive. Minus, so like 5 minus 3, 9 minus 2. If we have a negative on bottom, my bigger number will be negative. 3 minus 5, 2 minus 9, to where we get a negative number. Now, this is where it all ties in, okay? Remember all this stuff, a times c on top, b on bottom. Okay, this is how it all ties in, okay? X squared minus 13x minus 48. Well, in 8-3, a will always be 1. In 8-4, it's going to change. So 1 times negative 48, negative 48 on top, negative 13 on bottom. 1 times 48, 2 times 24, 3 times 16, 4 times 12. Well, this on top tells me I'm going to need one of each, one positive, one negative. So 16 minus 3 gave me 13. 3 minus 16 gives me negative 13. All you have to do now is throw the x in front. X plus 3, x minus 16. Those are my two factors. So the hardest part is finding the two numbers that multiply the top and add to the bottom. Okay? As you can see, I just took 48 divided by 1, divided by 2, divided by 3, divided by 4 until I found the two numbers that would add or subtract to my b value. Okay. And what would happen here, if you want to double check, FOIL this back out. X times x, 3x, minus 16x, minus 48. We can get it there. Now here, we're a little bit out of order, but that's okay. We're going to just rearrange. X squared, x to the first, number by itself. Okay, so now I have a and b and c. Alright, so after we reorder, negative 44 on top, negative 20 on bottom, we get 2 and negative 22. Multiply there, add there. So we just throw the x's, x plus 2, x minus 22. Once you find the two numbers, you're really just throwing the x in front and turning it into something that we would be able to FOIL later on. Okay. This one here, be careful, it's out of order. 24 and 25x need to be switched. So x squared plus 25x plus 24. 24 on top, 25 on bottom. 1 times 24, 1 plus 24. Throw the x's in front. You're good. Okay. A-3 is pretty easy. Okay. This one here, I'm missing my b value originally. X squared minus 36. And we're going to get into this actually in 8-6. But we're missing our b value here. So we're going to put in 0b, which means I'm going to have 0 down here. Negative 36 on top. 6 times 6, 36, and then 6 minus 6. So it's going to be the same number. Okay, one's positive, one's negative. Okay. Okay, here's the second part of 8-3, which it doesn't have a whole lot more other than we are going to be solving now. So now we have equals 0, and go back to 8-2, watch the video about equals 0 and why all that has to work. Okay, so we still got x squared minus x minus 42, negative 42 on top. This is a negative 1, so put negative 1 on bottom. 7 times 6, and then negative 7 plus 6. We get our two numbers. Okay. Now, we have this down here. Let me move this for a second. We're setting both these equal to 0. X minus 7 is 0. X plus 6 equals 0. One-step equations. Add 7, subtract 6. Now, you have to put your answers in these braces here. Okay. Can't have parentheses because that's an XY point. I want these braces. So, but if you notice, 7 and negative 6 are the exact opposite of the two numbers we originally found. Okay, so negative 7 times 6 gets me this. And if I pull a positive 7 and negative 6, I don't even need to set up the equations or anything like that. It's a little shortcut. Okay, so this one here, x squared plus 11x plus 28. 28 and 11, 7 and 4. So I'm going to pull a negative 7 and negative 4. And then I got my answers. I've skipped the setting them equal to 0. Okay, I got my two factors and I got my two answers because it equals 0. Same thing here, negative 70 on top, 9 on bottom. This one worked out a little bit later, but it was 14 and negative 5. 14 minus 5 is 9. Then I'm going to pull negative 14, positive 5. So y'all got that pretty easy. It's when we didn't have equals 0 that kind of threw you guys off a little bit. Okay, when you don't have equals 0, we're going to make equals 0. So whatever's over here, and we want to keep our x squared positive. So if this was on the other side, we're bringing everything over. Okay, x squared needs to stay positive for this to work. So add x to both sides. That's now 0. X squared plus x minus 72. Set it up, find your numbers. Negative 9, positive 8. Okay. I'm speeding through this as much as I can for you guys. Feel free to pause the video, rewind the video, stuff like that. Okay. Another one where we don't have equals 0, so we're going to add 34 to both sides. X squared plus 19x plus 34 equals 0. 34 on top, 19 on bottom. Find your two numbers, take the two opposites. Okay. So if you don't have equals 0, we can get equals 0. Is that it? I think that was it. Okay. So 8-3, not too bad. As long as you remember one of two things. Your two numbers have to multiply to the top and add to the bottom, and a times c gets us our top number. 8-3, a will always be 1, so we really only need c, but we'll need the a times c for 8-4. Okay? And this right here, based on what they give you, you can tell which numbers are positive, which numbers are negative. Okay, so I should probably write the ax squared plus bx plus c on this page somewhere. But These 2 pages has all the reminders you need. So that was 8-3, not too bad. We are done